Welcome back, artists. We've been working with Play-Doh past couple videos. I made this at home. Again, I got a video on how to do that if you need to make some, if you don't have any. So I'm going to continue with sculpting, and I'm thinking today I'm going to work on some animals. So let's make it happen. First thing I'm going to sculpt, you guys always, anytime I give you clay, model magic, anything like that, first thing, especially the little kids do, is make snakes. Because, hey, snakes are easy to make, right? They're basically just a coil. So if I take some of my Play-Doh here, and I just roll it back and forth, you're going to get something kind of like a coil. Now the problem is, if I just keep going, again, I got some wax paper down just to prevent my desk from getting all messy. If I just keep going, there's a couple things that aren't going to work very well. Number one, it looks really lumpy and bumpy. And number two, if I keep rolling in the same spot, just that one spot's going to get really thin. And the other spots won't. So if you want to make a nice, neat coil, you got to kind of move around as you do it. So let's try this again. And take my green. I guess my green's going to be like the basic color of the snake. I'm going to use some yellow to add some stripes in just a minute. But first, I'm going to take a little bit of this just to save to make the snake's head. So let's put that over there. We got some extra Play-Doh there to make my snake's head. And now let's try to make a coil that's not all lumpy and bumpy. So start with a sphere. Most of these forms we make when we sculpt, you can start with a sphere. You don't really have to for this, but I just kind of naturally always do that. So I'm just going up and down. And once it gets about as long as my hand, like that, I'm going to actually have to stop and pay attention to how it's working. Because once it starts to stick out from my hand, I got to move my hand around to make sure that my coil stays nice and even. See how it's thicker here and thinner here? Okay. Now actually, I'm not going to go much further than that yet, because I actually want to make a striped coil. So we're going to see how this works. What I'm going to try to do is make a coil yellow that's about the same size, and then put the two together. So let's see. I don't know how this will work, but we're going to try it out. So again, I need them to be about the same thickness. I'm not worried about how long they are. I'm worried about how thick they are. Right now, it looks like the yellow one is a little bit thicker. So I'm going to keep rolling that out a little bit until it's about the same. That looks pretty close. Okay. Now at this point, there's lots of different ways I could add stripes on my snake. I could, pinch off little pieces and just wrap them around. I could braid them together, like put both of these together and twist them. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to try cutting it into cross sections. A cross section is like basically just exactly what it sounds like, a little section of that clay. And I'm going to try putting these sections together into a new coil to make stripes. And I'm really not sure how this is going to work, because obviously when I cut it, again, I'm just using like a dull butter knife. You could really use anything. You could use a popsicle stick if you got one. But when I cut it, it pinches them off a little bit, like that. They almost turn into like little pillow shapes, like those mints that, after dinner mints, I think they're called. So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but we'll see. So maybe I'll add a stripe there, a stripe there, a stripe here. And hopefully once I put everything back together, I'll be able to roll them back into one coil. But hey, we're about to find out, aren't we? And maybe I'll add an extra little one there. So, cool. All right, let's see how this works. Now, should I put them together like this or like this? I'm not sure. I guess I'll just put them together like that. Kind of the way they were. And we'll see how that does. Might do okay, might look horrible. Apparently the snake's going to be a lot longer than I thought it was originally. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of compress it this way. But ultimately, it's not really going to bind together and stick together until I start rolling it again. So at this point, let's go ahead and I'm pushing down just a little bit as I'm rolling it. And really what I'm waiting for to happen, you can see how there's all these little sections, like that one's breaking right there. So the only way they're actually going to stick together is if while I roll, I'm pushing down a little bit. So this is going to make my coil a little longer. That's okay, that's what I want. Like I said, apparently this is going to be a big long snake. And hopefully all those little gaps in color are gonna start to fill themselves in. So you can see me kind of pushing it back together as I go. That's getting really long over here. Yeah, it's starting to connect. Those gaps are filling in a little bit. They're still kind of separating. They're still kind of coming apart. So I just need to keep kind of doing this back and forth. So I'm rolling it a little bit and then kind of pushing it back together where it's coming apart. We're getting there. Each new time I do this, it seems like more of the parts are sticking together, which is what I want. It's working. My wax paper's moving all over the place though. Let's see if we can stick that down. Not, my tape's not sticking, that's all right. All right, at this point, it actually looks pretty well stuck together. There's still a couple places that aren't quite sticking, but most of it is. And I can tell because when I bend it, see how it's not breaking apart anymore? You can see a little bit of breaking right there. So that's how you can kind of check which parts are stuck and which parts aren't. I'm standing it up right now and just kind of pushing the whole thing down to really get it to bind together and stick together. Okay. So I wasn't sure how that was going to work. And it seems like it has worked okay. It's not the best, but I definitely have stripes. And I think I'm fine with it. Okay. Cool. So, let's make... Maybe I'll put the head up here and the tail down here. And I think what I'm going to do for the tail, anytime I do this in class or students are making snakes, they go, hey, how do I make it a rattlesnake? So I'm going to make a little rattle on the back of it. And I'm going to do this using a bunch of little discs that get smaller and smaller. So let's see. Maybe the first one's pretty big. We'll start out with some spheres. That might be too big. We'll see. I'm going to push down on the top, flip it over, push down on the bottom. Again, same way I made my wheels on my car. Okay. Push down on the top, flip it, push down on the bottom. Okay. Push down on the top, flip it, push down on the bottom. And I'll just kind of stack all these up. So the small one goes on the medium one, push down just gentle enough for it to stick. The medium one goes on the big one, push down just gentle enough for it to stick. You can see how that's working. Almost looks like a beehive type deal. And I'll put the last one right on top, boop, and just, again, push that down just enough that it sticks. There we go. So there's my little rattle part. And let's put that right about there. We're going to pop that on. and push enough for it to stick. Okay, so that's my snake's tail. It's the tail. Maybe I'll pull this out a little bit longer and kind of shape it. Cool. Let's make the snake's head. All right. So I got this extra little bit of green that I saved at the beginning. Now I could just use like a circle, a sphere, I should say, since it's a form, not a shape. So I could just use a sphere, but I want to make it a little bit more interesting and realistic than that. So all I'm going to do is take my sphere and kind of pinch it into a form that's a little bit more pointed on the front. So if we imagine that as the top, we can see how it's getting pointier toward the front. Okay. And then from the side view, I'm going to pinch it down so it's a little bit flatter toward the front too. So I kind of have to go back and forth. My top view, I want it to be pointier on the front, and my side view, I want it to be flatter on the front. I'll just kind of keep going back and forth till it looks like what I want it to look like. That looks pretty good, I think, for the shape of the head. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. Well, what do we need now? This is so much bigger than I thought it was going to be. What do we need now? We probably need some eyes and maybe a little tongue sticking out, which I'm not sure we can do super well with Play-Doh, but we'll give it a shot. I guess first let's go ahead and connect that. So I'm going to push that together. And of course, as I'm pushing it together, the shape is going to change a little bit, so I can go back and change it like I need to. Kind of blend the shape of the body into the shape of the head so they actually connect. And of course, as I'm doing this, it's totally changing the shape of the head, so I'm going to have to go back and kind of make it more how I want it. Okay. I'm just pushing down on the nose part a little bit more because it ended up not being as flat as I wanted. Okay. Okay. Not bad. Yeah. Cool. All right. Let's make some eyes. And maybe a tongue. Okay, get some white. So for the eyes, I'm just going to use teeny tiny little discs. So I need a very, ooh, this white is so much like softer than the colored clay, or Play-Doh, I should say. You're just going to have to get used to that. Anytime I sculpt, I call it clay, whether it's actual clay or not. All right, ooh, this is really sticky. So I'm imagining, yeah, if I press that flat, it's going to get way too big. So honestly, that one little sphere is probably enough for both eyes together. My hands are getting kind of sticky too. Let's pull that sphere in half. Yep, as you can see, these are teeny, teeny, tiny little spheres. I'm using one finger to roll them. That's all I need. Boop, boop. All right. I imagine the eyes would go about here and here. Okay. I'll show that from a different view in just a minute. And I'm going to push them a little bit flat so they turn more into circles instead of spheres. Little discs, you could call them. Okay, so there's two eyes. And I feel like I need some pupils. What color should I use for those? Let's get a dark color. Let's use purple for those. It's going to do the exact same thing for the pupils. I just need the tiniest little bits Because if I have any bigger than the tiniest little bit, it's just going to cover up the entire white spot of the eye. So yeah, we're talking teeny tiny. Boop. Okay. And I don't know why the eyes make that sound, but they do. Don't question it. Boop. Push that flat. We got eyes. Look at that. Perfect. You know what we're going to get also? We're going to get nostrils. And making nostrils is the most fun because it's so easy. Let me grab a pencil. There we go. Nostrils. I don't know if snakes even have nostrils. Whatever. We're making them. Do snakes have nostrils? Okay. Well, mine's going to. It kind of looks almost more like a dinosaur than I intended it to. Probably because I put the eyes on the front and not the side. But hey, like I said, everyone's got their own style. My stuff always turns pretty cartoony. Nostrils. Bam.
And they smell really well.
They use their tongue to smell. Is that right? Well, speaking of that, let's make the tongue. So I'm going to grab some red. Should we turn this into pink for the tongue? Maybe we'll turn it into pink. I'll take just the tiniest little speck of red. And we're going to mix that into some white, see if we can get some pink. It's so sticky, I might not really be able to mix it super well, but let's try. Hey, it is working. I'm going to have to go wash my hands. They're getting too sticky. It is turning pink, though. Yep. But it's sticking all over me. All right. So. And it's not quite all the way pink. But I can't really roll it anymore. Everything's just sticking to me. So I'm going to go wash my hands. I'll be right back. All right. Got my hands washed. Got my pink ready. Here we go. Let's finish up this snake. So, there we go. I'm going to take this and roll it into a tiny little coil. Teeny tiny. Now, I know snakes' tongues kind of split in half at the end, so let's see if we can make that happen. Not exactly sure how I would go about doing this. Maybe I'll try just doing a tiny little cut in the middle. Didn't work. Didn't work at all. Total failure. It just immediately stuck back together. Let's try it a different way. Let's try taking a little bit off. It's so sticky. Now we can't make the tongue like super thin because it'll just, break right off. This might not work at all, but let's try it. If it doesn't work, we'll just take it back off. I don't think this is going to work. It's too thin and tiny. Too thin and tiny. So maybe the tongue's just going to have to stick out. It looks like bubble gum or something, like he's blowing a bubble. Maybe that's what it is. All right. I'm going to declare the tongue a failure. It's not going to work. It's just too small. Too small, too sticky. But the rest of our snake looks pretty good. Cool. Let's move this guy over to here. And, hey, there you go. Play-Doh snake. Play-Doh rattlesnake. His head and face kind of look like a dinosaur. Whatever. All right. I'm going to put you somewhere else. You're going to go over here. There we go. Cool. Let's make some more stuff. What next? Turtle. Where's the rest of my green? I had a bunch of green. Let's make a turtle. Boop. Bunch of green. All right, so let's kind of figure out how much we need for each part. The main kind of body part of the turtle, the shell, is probably going to take up most of my material. And that seems like a good size. The head, I'm just trying to get my clay into, you know, the correct size pieces before I really start sculpting. Feet, I want these to be all roughly the same size. So right now it looks like those two are a little bigger than those two. Let's put an extra Play-Doh here and here. Is that close to the same? It's close. Okay. Give a little bit for the tail. That seems like it'll be fine. Okay. Cool. Well, let's start by making these smooth. We're just gonna roll them up into spheres. Our easiest form to start with and sculpt with. There we go. Nice little sphere there. How do you know when your sphere is done? When it doesn't have any little bumps and cracks in it anymore. That actually happens real quick with Play-Doh. Seems like it takes a little longer to get with model magic, like a perfect little sphere. With the Play-Doh, it's happening pretty quick. Once we got our spheres straight, we can make sure they're all roughly the right size. Add and take away clay if we need to. Play-Doh. Whatever. Alright, so I feel like this one is a little smaller than the others. So I'm going to add a little extra. Boop, and roll that up. Is that enough extra? I don't know. It's probably enough. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. We need more. We need more. Okay. So again, with Play-Doh, the legs, if I put the legs like underneath the shell is going to be so heavy, it's just going to squish them down. Like the legs really won't be able to support the shell. So I'm thinking I'm just going to have them kind of sticking out. We'll see in just a minute. Okay. So I got all the pieces I need. I've kind of planned out everything. You know what? Let's go ahead and even make like pieces for the eyes. Since this clay is super sticky, maybe it'll have some Play-Doh. Since this Play-Doh is super sticky, maybe it'll have some time to dry out if I do it ahead of time, which might be good. Because hopefully then it won't stick to my fingers as much. Now those are probably going to be some pretty big eyes once I press them a little flatter. And I'm okay with that. The head's a lot kind of bigger and rounder since it's going to be a sphere. I'm not really going to change the shape of the head on the turtle like I did on the snake. It's just going to be basically a sphere. And that'll be fine. All right, let's do this. So, got my pieces for my eyes. Got my pieces for my face and feet and tail, and of course the big pieces for the shell. Cool. What color eyes? My snake had purple. I like the way that looks, but let's make the turtle different. Let's give the turtle blue eyes. I'm gonna make the teeny tiniest little, if I can. Probably not even worth doing right now, but let's see. The teeny tiniest little spheres that I possibly can. Get off me. Get off me. It's sticking. So we talk about a lot how, like, if you don't leave your Play-Doh in a can or in a bag, it'll dry out. Well, the reason I'm making these ahead of time is I actually want them to dry out a little bit because, as you can see, they're really, really sticking to me. Might need to go wash my hands again in a second. Okay, so hopefully over the next, couple minutes as I sculpt the rest of my turtle, those have a chance to dry out a little bit and they won't be quite so sticky. I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. We'll see. So, let's do this thing. My hands are way too sticky again. Lots of hand washing breaks as we do clay. I'll be right back. Not clay, Play-Doh. All right, hands are washed. Let's make our turtle. So I'm going to start with the shell, and I'm going to start just by kind of tapping it gently on my desk. And what this is going to do is start to flatten out the bottom a little bit. What I want is a form almost like half of a sphere. For some reason, half of a sphere isn't called a semi-sphere. Like half of a circle is called a semicircle. But for some reason on a sphere, we call half of it not a semi-sphere, but a hemisphere. So if you've ever heard, like you're looking at the globe and you go, oh, we live in the northern hemisphere. Hemisphere just means half of a sphere. And since the planet Earth is a sphere, if we live above the equator, we're in the northern hemisphere, half sphere. And if we live south of the equator, like South America, Australia, Antarctica, you live in the southern hemisphere, the southern half of the sphere. So hey, there's a little bit of vocabulary for you, right? Hemisphere. Anyway, so I'm trying to make my hemisphere for the shell of my turtle. In other words, I want the top of it to be round and the bottom of it to be pretty flat, like it's half of a sphere. So if you see the bottom here is pretty flat, but it's not quite there yet, so I'm going to keep going. Always got to make language difficult. Half of a circle is a semicircle, but half of a sphere is a hemisphere. So right now I'm just kind of pushing the edges of it down a little bit more. Okay, that's close to a hemisphere. Kind of like a dome form. Cool. All right, there we go. What's next? Well, maybe I'm going to do, even though we probably won't see the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and put some, like a different color on the bottom of the shell. Maybe I'll do some orange. So I'm going to make kind of a disc form, press it flat, and just put it right on the bottom. You're not really going to see the bottom, so not a big deal, but a little bit of detail never hurt anyone. Flatten, flatten, flatten. I'm trying to flatten this out into not really even a disc. I want it to be kind of a circle-shaped slab. So it's going to be pretty flat, like a pancake. Again, this orange is super, super sticky. So I'm just trying to do that without it sticking all over my hands. I probably should have used a little bit more clay. Play-Doh. All right. Hey, close enough. Just flip that over. The bottom of the shell is going to be orange, even though we won't really see it. Why? Because I like adding details. That's why. Cool. And we're going to add a little bit of texture in there too. Just really gently. And this texture is probably going to rub right off as soon as we turn it, but that's okay. We know it's there. All right, so I guess the head would be what, here? So let's turn it so we know which way it's pointed. Good. And yeah, let's go ahead and make the rest of it, right? So if this is our shell, ooh, maybe we can do like a little, coil of brown around the outside of the shell. I used to draw Ninja Turtles constantly when I was a kid. Like before I could even draw anything, I was drawing Ninja Turtles. And they looked pretty bad because I couldn't draw anything because I was like in kindergarten, you know, but I knew lots of details. And one of the details the Ninja Turtles always had was they had like a little border around the outside of their shell. So I'm going to add that to this too with a little slab. slab. Nope, a coil. Coil is what I'm gonna add. And I could mix this with white to make it a little bit lighter, like a tan. I just don't feel like it. So I'm not gonna do it. My hands are getting super sticky again. I'm probably gonna have to wash them once again. But first, let's add our little coil going all the way around the shell. And is that gonna be long enough? Almost certainly not. Goodness, it's so sticky. Uh-oh. Look, I'm breaking my own rule. My coil got too thin. That's not gonna cut it. Goodness, do you see how sticky this is getting? I guess I've had my clay sitting in this bag when I'm not using it. I guess I should have had it just out on my desk so it could dry out a little bit. Look at that, it's sticking everywhere. I'm gonna have to go wash my hands again. All right. Now at this point I have way too much. Sticking everywhere. All this for a detail I didn't even need to add. Getting lost in the details over here. I kind of want to move that out of the way, but I don't want to pick it up. I have brown sticky clay all over my hands. Well, luckily, once we're done with the shell, I mean, we're pretty much done, so all you got to do is pop the head and the feet on, shape the tail, and you're golden. All right, we need this to be thinner, 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 thinner. I don't have very much room. Thinner, thinner, thinner. Again, the only way to keep the coil nice and even, so it's not really thick in certain places and really thin in certain places, is to go slowly and work one little part at a time. Wherever it's thicker, I'll work that part a little bit. Wherever it's thinner, I'll leave it how it is. Okay. Well, that's definitely long enough. Goodness. And wash time again. Be back in a second. All right, hands clean, let's roll. So, what I'm gonna do is I envision this brown part as going around like the top part of the shell. So up above, like where the arms and feet and all that stuff would connect. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and connect all the other pieces. My head, my feet, which are just going to kind of stick out on the sides like that. Pushing in enough for them to connect. Yes, let's shape my tail kind of like a little triangle. Maybe triangle's the wrong word. Cone? I don't know. Something pointy. Pointy-ish. Tail. Okay, so there's my turtle. And let's see if we can go ahead and add this going around. And I don't know if this is going to be a total disaster or not. Let's find out. So this is just going to go kind of up over. It's so sticky. I don't know why this brown is so sticky. Yep, this might have been a bad idea. It's okay. Happy accidents, right? Yeah. We're gonna have to see what we can do about that. Yeah, it's just the brown is so... I guess it's the way I mixed it. It's so much softer. Like the green is holding its form really well, but this brown is not. It's okay. Again, how do you learn new things? By trying new things. Didn't know if it was going to work. It really didn't work too great, if I'm being honest. But I never would have known if I didn't try. Yep, totally not worth it. Let's see if we can pull that down into the in-between space. Pull that down, pull that down. Okay. Well, I'll see if I can shape that a little bit better in just a minute. It's so gooey. It's so gooey. Should I add some spots? Probably not. I shouldn't have even added what I just did add. But I feel like maybe I want to add some little brown spots on top of the shell. Can it happen without being a disaster? Probably not. Again, the brown's too sticky. I already know this. Why am I doing this? I don't know. I don't know. Let's just do it. You gotta experiment. You gotta try new things. Now, actually, another thing I could do to add, texture to the top of my shell is I could just take a pencil and like carve in some texture. That might be a better way to do it. Especially since my brown is kind of being a total outright disaster right now. Look at that. It's just ultra gooey. Boy. Did we use the gel color for the brown? We did, didn't we? Yeah. Do you think the gel color makes it gooier? It's possible. You're right, because the drops were just pure liquid. I don't know why this one's so gooey. Oop. I'm having to like switch all my fingers because certain fingers are just covered in goo. And if I touch anything, they're going to stick. It's all right. Let's do like 1 or 2 more spots down here. I really want a smaller piece, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get a smaller piece because it's so gooey. All right, we'll add 1 more little spot right there and call it a day on the spots. Poor turtle. Poor turtle. Everything was going so well. And then I messed it up by adding gooey brown all over him. You know what? That's all right. Turtles hang out in like mud, right? I don't know. Marshes, creeks, rivers. They're probably used to having mess all over them. They probably love it. I can't even get that to form a sphere at this moment. Oh no, my eye! My eye. Oh no. Oh, it came right off. So I think that is helping with the blue. Rolling that up earlier, it seems like it's dried out a little bit. It popped right off. I was scared it was going to mix in and stick to the brown. Well, that's about the only clean part of my finger I got, so let's use that. Put that last little dot on. Will it stick? Are you kidding me? It won't stick? Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. I have to use my pinky. The only non-sticky spot I have. Well, at least my turtle has some spots now. And a bunch of sticky brown all around its shell. All right, last hand wash and we're going to finish this up. Here we go. Okay, last hand wash complete. Turtle almost complete. I'm going to use a pencil here to kind of trace in my lines around the edge. Just so I have a nice separation between the shell part and the green part. Looks all right. There's some little splotches of brown here and there, but okay. I'm scared to pick it up at this point because the brown part is still really wet. I think I need to let it dry a little bit. So I'm just going to pop the eyes on and call it a day for this turtle. And then hopefully once it's a little drier, I can pick it up and see what's happening. Hey, do turtles have nostrils? Yeah. Totally. So we'll put on some eyes. We'll put on some nostrils. And then we're going to call little turtle here complete. Like I said, I knew the eyes were going to be pretty big. That's okay. That's how I wanted them. But I do want them to be close to the same size. So. Cool. And I think rolling the eyes up ahead of time and letting them sit out. Oh no, I lost my blue. Oh no, can I get it out? Look at that. I got it. I dropped it again. I do think that let it dry a little bit, which helped. Or maybe it's just compared to the brown, it's way less sticky. It might be that. Last little eye right here. Let's flatten that out. Get it at least close to the other one. Got a little bit of brown on my finger. Oops. In his eye. He'll be all right. Nostril time, the most fun part. Boop. Boop. Easy. Turtle. All right. There he is. Once the brown is dried a little bit, I'll see if I can pick it up. It's a turtle. I think anyone looking at it would know it's a turtle. Should we just try to pick it up right now anyway? You can see his little shell on the bottom. So there we go. Turtle and snake. Cool, cool. I'm gonna let them sit and dry for a minute so I can actually pick them up without getting stuck to them. Awesome. So there you have it. Play-Doh animals. Maybe I'll make some more tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, keep doing what you're doing. Be safe, be creative, have fun. Yeah, I'll see you guys later on.